Hello, old families. Long time no see. I hope everyone had a wonderful February break and has returned to business as usual, or as best we can, this week. I hope you read yesterday's email. It was very encouraging about the very small number of COVID-19 reports that we've received over the last few weeks. And it's really nice to see the infection rate in our country, in our region, and our county turn around in such a positive way as we all look forward to a greater sense of normalcy and return to routine. I will try to make this update brief, but there is a lot of information. Um, we are very pleased with everything that's been going on in our district, K-12, since the start of the school year. We thank you for the partnership. We thank you for the support. And we are really pleased to have arrived at this junction of the onset of spring without even a single day of lost instruction due to COVID-19. We came up with a reopening plan that was effective, that has worked. We find ourselves, however, at a fork in the road. It has been our goal to return all students to 100% capacity since March 13th of last year. Since the day we were directed to close our doors at the onset of the pandemic, our goal and our aspiration has been to work towards returning to as close to that routine as possible. And we've taken incremental steps. We've referred to it as opening the valve. We started out with full capacity at elementary. We created opportunities for remote learners. We later added sixth grade to be a 5-day-a-week model, and we brought back students on Wednesdays and in every other week cohort setting. We've been looking for ways to re-engage the students into the classroom setting, but making sure it has been done in a safe and healthy way, not just for the students, but for all stakeholders involved, which means our faculty and staff as well, and certainly for the students who come home to families that may have compromised health conditions. So we're at a fork in the road because there is some schools of thought that believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What we've been doing has been working, it's been effective. There is the other school of thought where we look at what our priorities are as a school district for our community. There are some undeniable truths. We know definitively that students learn better and achieve more when they are amongst their peers in the classroom, face-to-face with their teacher. If that were not the case, we all need to rethink our career choices. When Dr. Hull and Mrs. Fine presented student achievement to the Board of Education at the last formal meeting, during the pandemic, we have noticed some small decreases in achievement. We were actually pleased that there weren't greater gaps in the learning. And that is a testament to the hard work and dedication of our teachers to use all of the resources they've had available to keep the children on pace as best as possible, despite the very challenging forum that we are using with a live model, a hybrid model, a fully remote model. Teachers have been, doing a Herculean job of making sure they meet the needs of children. And so the fact that achievement didn't demonstrate the growth that we typically expect was not surprising. We were pleased that the lack of achievement, the gaps, were as small as they were. But it's also an indication that further accentuates that students learn best in a face-to-face in-school environment amongst their peers and with their teachers. We also have to look at the social emotional impact. That has been our biggest concern since the onset of the pandemic. Not only the effect that the pandemic is having on our society and how difficult it's been to go through these challenging times, but the unique challenges that our students find themselves faced with, feelings of isolation, feelings of disconnect, and that's something we're seeking to challenge. So the fork in the road was, is it time to address that social, emotional, and academic need, or do we still need to keep all of the safety precautions we've had in place to make certain that we don't see any changes to the success we found? After lots of conversation and dialogue, and if you've been following public board meetings, you have seen the evolution of this, we have determined that now's the time. Now's the time to begin opening the valves more. Lots of discussion has taken place. This has not been an easy nor quick decision to make because it comes with it some inherent risk. And that's difficult, and I will personalize this. It's difficult for me to be the one who is in the position to make this recommendation, because anything that can contribute to the spread of the virus, the exposing our students, our faculty, our staff to greater risk is done with great trepidation. So we really had to look at the way the seesaw was balanced in order to feel comfortable moving forward with this recommendation. So I met with the reopening task force yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock, and thank you to all those that participated. It was a well-attended meeting, and the individuals who were present asked good questions, asked probing questions, as we examined the obstacles that need to be overcome to increase our capacity of students. So rather than to try to go through that entirety of the presentation I made to the community last night, which took a little over an hour, I'm simply going to attach the slides to the email where you received this update, and I will make sure that the presentation is posted on the website. But within the presentation, it did talk about proposed return dates for our students. Proposed, tentative, we hope so, use whatever synonym you would like. But there are some other factors that need to come together before these dates can be presented to the community in definitive fashion. And I know that's frustrating, and I'm sorry. I know every family, every household is trying to plan their lives according to when will they have the opportunity to send students back to school. Well, there are some factors we simply need to know before we can make those dates definitive. Part of that is a parent survey. A survey will be sent to all parents in grades 7 through 12. It is not an interest survey. It's not a what do you think. It is a commitment survey. You will be asked if you have a child in grades 7 through 12 to make a commitment to your child attending a 5-day-a-week model, if that is made available, remaining fully remote, and we understand that some parents who haven't been fully remote may opt to be so because of increased capacity and concerns that come along with it. We hope that increased capacity is not going to be an agent of spreading the virus, and our experiences at the elementary school and in 6th grade help us feel comfortable with that the virus has not spread in our buildings, even in the grade levels that have greater capacity. We were pleased that in 294 tests given to our athletes, we haven't had a single positive case. We are happy to see that the infection rate has dramatically decreased both in the community and in our district. We can't have that change. So if families are not comfortable sending their students, they will check off remote learning. There is also a model, and I thank all the individuals that will be involved in making this happen, that if a parent elects to have their child remain in the hybrid model, meaning they're only going to attend in the A or B cohort as they are now in grades 7 to 12, they'll have the option for that. Class will meet live every day once we move forward with our reopening. But if you feel more comfortable as a parent, having your child remain in just those 2 or 3 days a week because it lessens the exposure to the more densely populated classrooms, it does 2 things. It helps you feel more comfortable about your own child if that's the decision you decide to make, but it also decreases the density in the classroom. I don't anticipate having large classes fit snugly into the classrooms. I want to make sure there's adequate spacing in each classroom when the students return. It will not be 6 feet. It won't be 6 feet. We will have barriers in place, and 100% mask compliance will be insisted upon all the time with no lapses. And then we feel comfortable and safe. And that's what we've been doing K to 6. But the 6 feet will not be possible when we increase capacity. So that if there is a positive case, the tendency that there might be additional students requiring quarantine greatly increases. Mask wearing barriers are not factors that determine close contacts and who we must direct to quarantine. Only spacing does that. So if we have a positive case in grades 7 through 12, when we're able to return to full capacity, that will likely result in the greater need to quarantine a larger set of students. So when you respond to the survey, parents, please understand that. Quarantine just doesn't mean learning remotely for that period of time. It means you're directed by the county government not to leave your home for the period of 10 days and to work in isolation from your family. It's not an easy chore. For those families that have experienced quarantine restrictives, it's difficult. And it's a difficult experience to put a child in grades 7 through 12 through that. So that has been one of our hesitancies. Although we're confident we can limit the spread of the virus, the quarantine directive will increase when we increase capacity. So it's something to consider. We want to look at everything, pros and cons. So there will be three choices, but it will be called a commitment survey. You'll see it. And it's asking you to make a commitment for the model your child will follow for the remainder of the year. So please think carefully, please give it thought, but please get it back to us quickly. The due date for the survey will be March 1st. The administration needs that information, so scheduling and planning can take place accordingly. We need to be able to inform our teachers who they should expect to see and when they should expect to see them. And if classes are too densely populated, adjustments may have to be made to schedules to accommodate that. You may hire things about overflow rooms and alternate spaces and things of that nature, depending upon the survey responses, which is why we need them as quickly as we do. Quick turnaround time, but I promise you it's just one question. So when we made a proposal, and again, use whatever synonym you want for proposal, tentative, etc., etc. We need to understand that it's that, because there are a number of obstacles that have to be overcome. And when you look at the presentation, you'll note them. We have to figure out what to do with the large groups, our music ensembles. Food service in the cafeteria is a major obstacle that needs to be overcome. When only 99 students can fit 6 feet apart because they take their masks off in the John Glenn High School cafeteria, we need to come up with alternate eating spaces, because there are certainly more than 99 students scheduled for lunch at the same time when we return to full capacity. Music, students still need to be 12 feet apart. For physical education, they still need to be 12 feet apart. The regulations for spacing haven't changed. 6 feet and barriers only applies to certain spaces. There are greater restrictions than others. Phys ed, wind ensembles, things of that nature. We have to outfit our tech rooms, our fax rooms, our science labs with barriers and arrange the furniture to make sure it is safe and conducive to learning in places we don't have typical desks that can be spread apart. Speaking of desks, you will see in the presentation, we need 225 more than we have. They were ordered weeks ago. The date that they are tentatively scheduled to arrive is March 12th. It's tentative. We are pressuring the vendor in every way possible to get the desks here ASAP. Again, they were ordered weeks ago. There are many schools looking for this equipment with the thought of increasing density in the buildings. Once the desks arrive, the custodial team will be all hands on deck, and thank you in advance, gentlemen, for assembling and placing them where they need to go. So that's a big dangling Chad, as it were. But when we look at the proposed schedule, we made a commitment to our senior class. For our seniors, it is our last chance with you all. We know that our time is running short together, and we want to maximize it as much as possible. We want to use time that we have available to make up for so much that was lost by the class of 2021. So the first scheduled return date will be for the senior class the week of March 8th. And it'll be a senior week. And I thank the high school administration and their team for putting together the idea of working with our groups to do special things during the course of that week for our seniors. So it could be a grand welcome back to being together. The following week, the week of March 15th, we would look to, again, tentatively look to bring back grades 7, 8, and 9. And then the following week, the week of March 22nd, 10, and 11. And that would give us a week of having full capacity before the April break so that we can use the April break to measure what results we see. Have we seen increases in the infection rate? Are we seeing safety concerns? And if so, we'll pivot right back to a hybrid approach after the April break. Do I anticipate students being unsafe, our staff being unsafe? No, or I wouldn't entertain this idea. But if something occurs unanticipated, we will need time to pivot back to a hybrid environment. We said that in each step of this process. And fortunately, everything has gone smoothly. I anticipate this will go smoothly. But if it doesn't, we need a parachute. And the April break would provide us with that parachute to evaluate what has taken place. So you will see that slide. But again, when I spoke about next steps with the committee yesterday, we have to make sure all the resources secured, all the scheduling is done, all the changes have been made. And yes, we have been working on this all along. This is not a project that has started, this week. We also need to make sure all the logistical concerns are addressed. Parents, transportation has been difficult this year in that we can't have full capacity on buses, and we have asked parents to respond by driving children to school, and we thank you for that. but you have experienced the congestion that takes place at drop off and pickup at the middle school and the high school every day. For those of you who participate, that will get worse when we increase capacity. So we will need to figure out some of the logistics of how to address these concerns, as we do move towards bringing more children back on a regular basis. The principals of our secondary buildings, Dr. Moran, Mrs. Brzezinski, and their team need time to address concerns brought forward by the instructional staff and the support staff. We need to make sure our frontline workers have a voice. There are things that are, clear at the administrative level, and there are details of the day that we need to hear from the teachers. So over the next few days, our principals will be meeting either by department or with their full faculties to make sure we have documented their concerns and can address them. The teachers anticipate students coming back. So we need to make sure that whatever concerns they have are addressed. And they know best what they need for their classrooms to make this work effectively and safely. They've been doing it all year. They've been doing a wonderful job. We have every confidence that will continue, but we need time to hear from them to make sure that we are checking every box in preparation for return. And another integral part of the process is I need to have consensus from the Board of Education. I would be a very foolish superintendent if I did not measure the comfort level of the board. We are fortunate that there's a board meeting scheduled for March the 4th. All board members are, of course, privy to this information. They were all in attendance at last night's meeting. They've been very supportive of the recommendations brought forward by myself and the administrative team throughout the year. And I do not anticipate that any board member will be opposed to the plan that's been proposed. However, they may have perspectives, thoughts, lenses of things that we need to consider before finalizing the plan. And that is their role, oversight. So we will make a presentation similar to what's attached to this update and was given yesterday at the board meeting on March the 4th, where we will give the final green light at that time. For right now, it's proposal. For right now, it's tentative. For right now, we need to check a lot of boxes to make it happen, but start to plan accordingly. First thing we need from you, parents in grades 7 to 12, is survey response. So the news from classrooms, the news from athletics, the news from extracurricular beginning to go again has all been positive. We're all trending in a very positive way, and we just want to keep that momentum. So please, as I wrote in the email earlier this week, now is not a time to become lax. Please remain vigilant in your response to virus prevention. Masks, we need to make sure we have 100% mask compliance at all times. When the CDC released their updated guidance, one of the things that I saw was that there is some recommendation, not a requirement, for double masking. It's not because you need 2 layers of protection to prevent virus spread. It's that most people don't wear masks with a true fit. So wearing layers of masks makes it more likely that there is a clean seal on the nose and mouth. And nose and mouth, my biggest pet peeve on the planet right now is people who wear their mask below their nose. Unless you don't breathe through your nose, you are spreading the virus just as quickly with your mask not placed accordingly. So please make sure that you remind your children of that when they are sent to school. Children, for the most part, have been very compliant with mask wearing. Our staff and faculty have been terrific, but everyone is prone to a lapse from time to time. So if you are a person who sees someone whose mask wearing is lapse, be an upstander, say, hey, just a simple little hand signal usually takes care of it. We're all in this together. And if someone corrected my mask, if it wasn't on appropriately, I would thank them. So I'd hope that would be the response from others as well, or it should be. So continue, please, respecting the guidelines that we have in school, but also outside of school. You have seen news reports of school districts that have had to shut down districts, buildings, grade levels because of things that happen outside of school. We do not want to be on that list. So it's just as important that the guidance is followed outside of school as it is inside of school. You could probably tell by the tone of my email that I was really disappointed when I learned that there were families that did not respect the travel quarantine restrictions and sent their children to school anyway. We had to take action on that. The students were put in isolation and sent home immediately. We can't choose which regulations we follow. We need to follow them all. to make sure that everyone is kept safe. And parents count on the fact that we're doing that when they send their children to the buildings each day. So we will continue to be vigilant. All of that said, please look at the slides. Elementary parents, I'm sorry that this was a very secondary focused update. Things are great at the elementary school. We'd love to see the 100th day celebration earlier this week at Harley. Those costumes were amazing. Great things are happening at Boyd every day, and we thank the faculty and staff for making it happen. But this was a secondary discussion. So when you see the slide, you'll note that. The survey will be for parents in grades 7 through 12. And please tune in to the board meeting on March 4th. It was supposed to be a workshop meeting. We have made it a business meeting to take some action. So this presentation, again, will be part of it, so the board has their chance to respond. Stay healthy, Elwood. Please enjoy the remainder of the week and the weekend. And we really look forward to shifting towards a return to normalcy. Please read the presentation, as there is far more detail contained within it than I expressed within the video. Have a good rest of the day.